Shalom. Once again, we will be looking at the issue of the nation of Israel and the Palestinians. But this final lesson in our class, we'll be looking at the Bible prophecy implications. What does all this mean biblically, prophetically? Where perhaps is this going? Well, we are going to be looking at this, as it were, from an aerial viewpoint. What I am talking about is kind of like when Balaam, that enigma of an individual, the book of Numbers, had a number of oracles, prophecies about Israel. One of them, Numbers 23:9, he says, "For from the top of the rocks I see him," speaking of Israel, "and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations." Well, in this oracle of Balaam, he's getting a large view, an aerial view, as it were. From the top of the rocks, he is seeing the nation of Israel. And in this particular prophetic oracle, he's giving that prophecy that the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, will dwell alone, that they will be distinct from the nations of the world. And that has certainly come to pass throughout history. As the nation of Israel in today's world is a pariah nation, according to the world. And the Jewish people have generally never been accepted by the world's population. Well, we're going to take a bird's eye view, as it were, of prophecy. See, we know some things that will happen, and try to understand where we are going, in light of some of these prophecies. The tribulation period, I believe, is near. In Zephaniah chapter 2 and verses 1 and 2, "Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you." Zephaniah, the theme of that book, is the day of the Lord. And here it's a nation, Israel, not desired at this point by God. But they are to gather together. They are to become a nation, numbered among the nations of the world, prior to the day of the Lord. Since the day of the Lord starts with the seal judgments of Revelation chapter 6. And the sealed judgments are at the very beginning of that 7-year tribulation period. That means prior to the tribulation period, Israel, in fulfillment of Bible prophecy, should be a nation among the nations of the world again. Israel's rebirth in 1948 is fulfillment of prophecy and the sign of the end times. We are living in the last days. We are on the precipice of the start of the tribulation period. I believe that is very clear from the Word of God. We know there will be a peace agreement. In that amazing 70 weeks prophecy, those 490 years, in that final 7-year period, spoken of in Daniel here as a week. It's one set of 7 in the context, years. We are told, and in the context, that would be the Antichrist. "He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 7-year period," a week of years. And in the middle of the week, 3.5 years in, "He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So the Antichrist will confirm a covenant, a peace agreement with the nation of Israel and her enemies. We are marching towards that. We have been for many decades now. And now with President Trump, now with this outside-in process. In other words, let's get the entire Arab world to have peace with us. The Palestinians will fall in line. It's up to this point, it's been different. It's been the opposite. The Antichrist will make a peace agreement with Israel and their enemies. But in the middle of that 7-year period, he will make the oblation, the offering to cease, the sacrifice. That means there has to be a rebuilt temple. Now, President Trump mentioned this in our last class. President Trump versus Palestinian refugees, creating a foundation for peace. This was an article by Ryan Jones in the magazine Israel Today on August 26 of 2018, and he said this: the status of Jerusalem and the Palestinian right of return have long been the two major sticking points in peace negotiations. A firm majority of Israelis have made clear they will never surrender any part of their holiest city, Jerusalem, the division of which would anyway create a security and political nightmare. Likewise, even left-wing Israeli lawmakers have for years said they simply cannot accept a Palestinian right of return that would demographically destroy the Jewish state, flood the nation with millions of Palestinians. Without either side budging on these issues, a genuine peace never had a chance. Will Trump taking them both off the table bring us any closer to that desired outcome? That's the distinct possibility. We know one day there will be a peace agreement. Third, we know that anti-Semitism will increase. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 13, and those parentheses have been added, when the dragon, who is Satan, saw that he was cast onto the earth, he persecuted the woman, Israel, which brought forth the man-child, Jesus. The last half of the tribulation period is intense anti-Semitism, hatred of Jewish people, hatred of Israel, and the attempt by Satan to destroy Israel and their people, the Jewish people. Because Satan knows if he can do that, he has defeated God. Because those prophecies about Israel being back in the land and the nation and the people coming back from the four corners of the earth would be a lie. So Satan will attempt to destroy the Jewish people. And so we should expect that anti-Semitism will increase in the last days, even prior to the tribulation period. And it is. February of 2017, in the Times of Israel, Raphael Aron wrote an article, Pandemic of Anti-Semitism Taking Shape Worldwide, even threatens America, warns top U.S. Jewish leader. We saw anti-Semitism in Britain. We saw it in France. And now we see it spreading everywhere. Honlin, Malcolm Honlin, who heads the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organization, told the Times of Israel in its Jerusalem office on Sunday, look at the numbers of incidents in Germany, Scandinavia, and other parts of the world. And now we see in America swastikas being painted Other expressions, such as phoned-in threats or aggression against kids, Jewish kids on campuses. So it spreads. It's not isolated to one geographical location. It's like a virus that spreads. Raoul Wootliff and Marisa Newman, reporting on February 27, 2017, the Times of Israel, said amid U.S., France anti-Semitic attacks, Herzog says Israel must prepare for waves of immigrants. Herzog said this, I wish to express my shock and vociferous condemnation of the outbreak of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S., France, and other places in the world. Isaac Herzog told his weekly Zionist Union faction meeting, I call on the government to urgently prepare and establish an emergency national program for the possibility that we will see waves of our Jewish brothers immigrating to Israel, Herzog said. So we know, according to the Bible, that is exactly what will happen. Jews will go back to Israel where they will have their only, hopefully, safe place of refuge. Herzog says, we will be seeing, because of the anti-Semitism, a wave of Jewish people coming back to the land. Zechariah 12, 1 through 3 tells us this. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretched forth the heavens and lays the foundation of the earth and forms the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling on all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. When President Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, May 14th of 2018, the uproar that took place among the nations of the world was unbelievable. This is the Jewish capital. Any sovereign nation has a right to state where their capital will be located. President Trump was doing what was politically incorrect, but was ethical and right. But the uproar, and this was just for moving the U.S. Embassy. What might happen if that dome is moved and the temple be rebuilt? And it will be rebuilt. We know that. Again, Daniel 9:27, the Antichrist will cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease in the middle of the week. 3.5 years in to the tribulation period. That temple has been rebuilt. The sacrificial system started. The Antichrist will put an end to that. And we are told in Matthew 24:15, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, that's the passage we just read in Daniel, whoso reads, let him understand. The context of Matthew 24 is events in the tribulation period, the 70th week of Daniel. The holy place implies there will be a temple standing at that time. And when it's desolated by the Antichrist, the Jews are warned to flee to the mountains. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verses 3 and 4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the Antichrist, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worship, so that he, as God, pretending to be God, sits in the temple of God, which is in Jerusalem, rebuilt in the middle of the tribulation period, showing himself that he is God. There will be a rebuilt temple. The peace process is but one spoke in the wheel in the development of events leading to the 7-year tribulation period. But an extremely important part of the equation. We know what will happen in the future. All the events leading to it, we don't know. But there will be a peace process. There will be an increase in anti-Semitism. The temple will be rebuilt. And if we step back and get a bird's eye view of the world and what's happening, and especially the Middle East and Israel and Jerusalem, we can clearly see that the stage is being set for that 7-year tribulation period. And soon, the Lord will return. Until he does, we're commanded, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. If you pray for the peace of Jerusalem, you're actually praying for the coming of the Lord to establish his kingdom on earth and true peace when he rules as king. Shalom.